Hello YouTube, RJ. Hey, listen, wanted to do a follow-up on the little electronic load I did the video on a couple days ago. Been playing with it a little bit, found some bugs and things I wanted to show you, curiosities. And also there was a question whether this thing can handle 150 watts. I have that question myself. The end of this video, we're gonna load this thing to a full 150 watts and we're gonna let her cook, time it, see how hot it gets, how quick it gets, and just how usable it is at an actual 150 watt load. But first, let me show you the couple bugs I've discovered in this thing that you might want to know about. First is, got a little experiment set up on the bench here. Let me explain what I've got. I've got the load over here. I've got my Owen meter set up as a milliamp meter. It's in line between the Owen power supply and the load. I've got the power supply set to 60 volt. I've got it set up to be able to put out 300 milliamps. We're only going to ask for 10 milliamps. And so I've got the load over here and I've got it set for 10 milliamps. Now, the funny thing is, I ran into this actually using this. I was actually wanting to put a small load on something, and I was running into strange things I couldn't figure out, and I figured it out. It's a bug in this device. So as you can see, I'm sitting here, it's off. It's not actually loading anything, but it's pulling 0.373 milliamps. And you might say, well, your meter's off or whatever. Well, the problem with that is if I pull the jack, my meter says there's no current going through now. So that load is sitting there pulling that, not even engaged. So that's one little interesting thing. And here's the interesting thing. If I hit the start button, we should see the load kick in and pull 10 milliamps, correct? Well, this is the funny thing. And I'm not going to make you sit here and watch the whole time. So I will speed it up. But I've got my stopwatch on my phone over here to make sure I'm not playing any camera tricks. I'm going to engage this. Hit start. Notice it's not pulling any more current. Notice this says that it's on, it's pulling, okay? Doesn't show any current draw. Notice my power supply says we're not pulling any current. Interesting. I'm not quite sure what to make of that. Why is this saying no current's being drawn? Well, I figure it can't read that low. It doesn't go that low on the meter. This does. We're going to sit here and I'll speed this up, run through, come back. When it finally kicks in, watch what happens. It will not put that load for a long, long time. And then all of a sudden, it will start pulling the load. So we'll be right back. Okay, there we go. Notice that it just magically kicked on and started loading down. Still don't show any current here, interestingly enough. I do show the current being drawn here, showing 8 milliamps instead of 10. But at that low of current, cables and stuff could be messing with this. So I'm not worried much about the less than 2 milliamp. But notice how long it took. So let's try it again. Now this is totally repeatable. I've done this many, many times. Now let's do a little experiment. I'm going to bump it up to, let's say we move it up to 20 milliamps, okay? So let's turn off the load. Notice that if I do it again, you're right back in the same, you've got to wait. Should have stopped that. I'll have to look and see how long it was, but it was quite a while. So now we're off, we're not pulling current, right? Let's go to 20 milliamps. Let's see what happens if I hit start with 20 milliamps. It immediately kicks in. Don't trust it on the 10 milliamp. It won't kick on for a long time. Just a little bug I discovered playing around. Anything above that seems to be okay. Any load that I put on it more than 10 milliamps, something about the circuit and the firmware or whatever that messes up if you get down to 10 milliamps. I'll be right back. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to do our 150 watt load. I'm going to load this up 60 volts, close to 150 watts as I can get on this without tripping the over power protection. And we're going to let her rip. I've taped the thermocoupler, external thermocoupler, hanging into the air out of the fan back there. So this will tell me how hot the air is coming out. This will tell me what the heat sink is. And we're going to see, will it do 150? how long can it do 150, how hot it'll get, and when will it shut off or burn up? Who knows? This thing may burn up right in front of us here. I don't have a clue, but we're fixing to find out. So let's go ahead and load her up at just under 150, and then I'll try to ease her up to 150. So here we go. 136, 141, 144, 45, 46, 147. That's probably as close as I'm going to get without tripping the safety. Our inside's 35.8 and climbing. Our outside is 29.7 and climbing. And she's climbing quick. The heat sink's at 39 and the air is at 31. Of course, that's C. So we're definitely generating some heat. Let me fill it back here. Oh yeah, it's not hair dryer yet, but it's getting there. So she's definitely handling 150, right at 150 watts, 147.73. I'm sure you can read that. We're 43C climbing. I'm not sure what the kick out temperature. It's supposed to kick out on, it gets too hot. 44C internal, 35.1 out. At 48.5 at this point. Outlet temperature air is 38.8. Doing better than I thought it would. Okay, at this point we've hit 49. Okay, coming up on 10 minutes and we're at 49 degrees. 48.9, 49. 39 degree air coming out. Okay, it's been over 12 minutes. We're cycling between about 48.7 to 49 degrees. Seems to be fairly steady state. Doesn't seem to be rising anymore. The most I've seen is 49.2, I believe is the highest I've ever seen. So at this point, I mean, I'm surprised. I think it's actually handling right at 150 watts. I'm going to try to ink the last of the 150 watts out of it. I'll probably trip the safety, but let's just see if we can bump it up to 2.5 amps. Okay, it gets me 148 watts. I'm going to try to go one more. We're under 49.3 right now. It's 49.2 now. A little more. 149.18. I think it's probably as close as I'm going to get. And we'll try one more. She just shut off on me. See how fast she falls back. $46, $45. Going down pretty quickly. I'm surprised. These fans are going to keep running for a little bit. I'm surprised. Much better than I expected. Will it do 150 watts? It'll push right up. It'll shut itself off at 150 limit. Will it overheat? It gets pretty warm. I mean, but let's face it, it didn't even hit 50 degrees C. That's totally doable. Quite surprised that the cooling is as good as it is. So I guess my belief that we would be able to pull 150 watts out of this thing for any period of time might not be true. Again, still take this with a grain of salt, and please don't leave high loads on this thing when you're not attending it. I would hate to hear that somebody had a house fire or something over one of these cheap Chinese loads. And so that's it. Just a little follow-up, tell you a little bit about some of the things I found, and actually put this thing through the test and actually see what it can do. So there you go. Can it do 150 watts? Yes, it appears that it can do 150 watts. Can it do it for any length of time? It was steady state for a long time, pretty well locked into 49 degrees C. I do not believe I was seeing a slow climb. It was times it would drop back to 48.7 and then work back up to 49. So it was oscillating back and forth a few tenths of a degree, but it just was not moving in a trend upwards. I think it was pretty steady state at that time. So as shocked as I am, yes, you can pretty well push 150 watts from this thing. It will get warm, but it seems to hang in there. And we do now know that the overpower protection does work. It shut off when it hit 150 watts. So there you go. I'm going to close it out with that. Thanks for hanging in with me. If you find this stuff interesting, it's useful to you, do me a favor, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, hit the notify so you know when I put other videos out. Till then, hopefully see you in the next video.